This is a short video to show you how to use your Montage or MODX with a separate audio interface. Most of Yamaha's instructions for setting up your DAW are geared around using the built-in audio interface that's included with the Montage or the MODX. And quite rightly so, they both have an excellent audio interface, especially in the case of the Montage, it's a very high quality audio interface. But you may find that you want to record a guitar track or vocals coming through a separate audio interface in addition to the audio output from your synthesizer. And that's not really documented in Yamaha's case. So this is a quick roundup of how to do that using your Mac. Right now I've got Logic set up with the standard Yamaha configuration, whereby I have the Montage set as both the input and the output device. That's all fine. And when I come to this audio track here, I can set that to be inputs 1 and 2 of the Montage, and then we have part 2, which would be on input 3 and 4, part 3 on inputs 5 and 6, etc. But I have a separate audio interface which I actually use for all of my stereo output, and it handles my vocal input and other line level instruments. So how are we going to get that to mix together? Well, the way to do that is to create what's called an aggregate device. We go to Audio MIDI Setup, and I've actually got one set up here. I've called it Complete Montage, and it is an aggregate device of the Montage and the Complete Audio 6. I'll show you how to make that now. You simply go down to Create Aggregate Device, and then you pick the first device. In this case, I'm going to pick the Montage, and then the second device, or however many other devices, and it creates a device that now has this many input and output channels, as you can see. Now I'm going to get rid of that briefly because I've already got one set up. It's this Complete Montage device. You see it's got 38 ins and 12 outs. The Montage is the first device, the Complete Audio 6 is the second device. Let's head over here and set Logic to use those devices. So for the output, I'm actually going to use this, which is another special device, and for input I'm going to use my Complete Montage. Now, bear in mind that Logic is going to use numbered inputs, and so the input for this stereo audio channel is going to be inputs 1 and 2 because the Montage was the first device in the list. But I also have these additional inputs, so inputs 33 and 34 are now the XLR inputs on the front of the Complete Audio interface. Now those numbers may not be particularly useful or interesting for helping you to see what you're doing, but there's a way to make it easier, and the way to do that is to head up into the Mix menu and go to I/O labels, and from here you can actually rename those. So this is what Logic is going to call it, inputs 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. The driver is going to give it its own name, and then if you want to, you can give them your own custom name. And you can see that I've set custom names for all of these mono inputs, and I've set the radio button to select those so that it will use those in favor of either the one provided by the driver or the name provided by the channel. Let's go down and see the stereo inputs, and here we have Montage main left and right. I'm going to tell it to use that instead of the input 1 and 2 label, and you can see that I've already labeled all of these, including the input from my audio interface. So let's get rid of those and see what that looks like. So you can see now that my input for this audio channel is now input 1 and 2 brackets Montage main left and right, and I've got all my other labels set up ready to use. Now, I've often seen a case where someone thinks that they are using inputs 1 and 2 from their Montage or MODX, and in actual fact it's coming from somewhere completely different. Let me show you how to deal with that. A common instance is to have something where your interface is using something other than the Montage or the MODX first, and there are valid reasons to do that. I'm going to get a new aggregate device. I'm going to set the Complete Audio 6 as the first device and set that to 96 kHz sampling, and then I'm going to add the Montage to it. Now, if you can see from this diagram here, the first 6 inputs are now those from the Complete Audio 6, and the remainder are from the Montage. If I head over to Logic and change my audio preferences to use on the output device, that is, this new device that I just created. I haven't renamed it, it's called Aggregate device at this point. Hit apply. Now when I go into my mix and IO labels system, you can see that the montage, let's go to the stereo ones actually, the montage main left and right is still using my label, but in actual fact it's pointing to input 1 left to right, which is actually the Complete Audio 6 device, and the montage part 1 is here. It's this one. I've just changed those radio buttons. This one here is the montage, and so because I labeled them according to the positions they were in on the first Aggregate device, where the montage was the first device, the labels are all off. So I would now need to go and change all of those labels. That's just something to be aware of. Do not assume that your synthesizer is going to use input 1 and 2 as its main input if you're using an Aggregate device. Whatever device is first in the Aggregate device is the one that will use input 1 and 2. And if that has 3 stereo channels, then you're going to have to shift all of your input numbers up by 6, for example. So using this particular instance, I could just switch to using the driver provided labels for some of those. And now if I want this to monitor the montage, then I need to use input 7 and 8, which is the USB main left and right. Now that will do the same job.